I'm Melanie.
And I'm Lizzie, and you're listening to
The Book Fairies.
And today there's also Lea.
Yay!
We're so excited.
A wild Lea has appeared.
We're so excited to have you. So Lea, this is Lea Falls. She is the author of Goddess of Limbo.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, we've been really excited to have you. We've just trying, since our podcast is fairly new, we just wanted to get our system all ready and perfect before we had someone on, because we want to give you the perfect, platform to talk about your book.
Aw, well, I'm honored to be your first time,
Yeah.
to be the first guest here.
Man, I hope everybody's first time is as special.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No guarantees I keep it appropriate.
That's alright. We're not very good with that as well.
So, how are you doing today, Lea?
Good. I actually just got the design images for the hardcover version of my book. Woo! And I haven't looked at them yet, but so it's a good day. I think I get to spend time with you lovely people and that, so yeah, I'm feeling great.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I saw on your story that you put a book of yours in a free library thingy.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's so cool that it already was away.
Yeah, I'm super happy. I stopped by yesterday, and I was a little worried because it was right next to a playground, and there were a lot of children's books in there. And I'm like, well, this is not appropriate for children. But now there's some more adults, so probably a parent picked it up, which makes me very happy.
I think so. I don't think it's I feel like that your cover design is just very beautiful. And so I'm not surprised that someone snatched it up right away, honestly.
Right? I mean, if I would see that cover, I'm still in love with that cover as well.
So
I don't know if that's self-gratulatory. I don't think so, because it's not my work, but I'm still in love with it.
I mean, that makes sense. I hope I feel that way about my book when I get the cover design back, that it's just like you're just in love with it,
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, can you show us the cover?
Oh, yes, of course. Da-da-da. I'm showing it to the recording, right? There it is. It's Cover Dungeon Rabbits designed it. I don't know if you'll have her in the show notes or something, but she's been doing so many awesome works.
We will.
It's just beautiful, and I barely had to do any adjustments. Honestly, getting a cover artist felt to me like getting a tattoo artist, and I was so nervous, so I was very happy when it worked out. You'd find your match.
Right. No, I actually think it's really awesome that you did get a cover artist, because a lot of authors will end up designing things themselves, and that's awesome, but I don't know, I feel like delegating is good. It's good to do that, especially when you don't have the exact idea. Sometimes artists will have oh, I can do this, and then it just ends up being the perfect design for you.
Yeah, I actually, you could say that to last December, Lea, because I actually did try to design it myself first, and it did not go well.
Yeah, I feel like I would be too critical. Right? Yeah.
What? Sorry.
It's good to try that first, to kind of get a feeling of what you want and stuff.
I had a really good idea of what I wanted, and I even did a photo shoot for it, because I was trying to include that. But the thing is, I don't know how to design covers, and I'm like, okay, if I take this 5-hour Photoshop class, maybe I'll be able to do it. And then I was 2 hours in and was like, no, people study this for years, and I didn't. So yeah,
I totally understand. I'm an illustrator, and I still ask someone else to design my cover, because I just feel like I'd be way too critical. Always seeing
but your work is so beautiful.
No,
oh my god,
I'm so critical of myself and my work that if I'm already going to be critical of my writing, I can't stare at a cover that I'm gonna hate, or feel if I had just done it this way instead. I just can't. I'd rather give it to someone that I trust and go have at it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do get that, because in this whole process I have been going like ups and downs of I love this story. Oh God, what did I write? I love this story. So I feel like if you do that with the cover as well, that might add to the stress.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so speaking of, can you kind of describe to everybody like who you are and like what your creative endeavors are? I just want everyone to know like how awesome you are as a person.
Aww. Sure. So I'm Lea Falls. I am an actor and writer. I studied acting in San Francisco, and that is still a main pursuit of mine. I did some student films, short films, that kind of stuff, a little bit of theater. And then I had to move around a little bit because I'm also German, so it took a little bit to get my US visa. And during that time, during that kind of chaos time, I picked up writing again. I had been trying to write novels as a teenager, but it never got past the, I don't know, third chapter mark. And then I was more focusing on screenplays and plays in general. So in that in between time, I picked up novel writing again, and I really fell in love with it. So now I'm kind of doing both. And yeah, I'm also an improviser. I founded a little improv troupe during my college time, and that was really cool, and that really informed my writing too. So I feel like every writer, I know it's probably terrifying, but like improv is probably really good for learning how to write stories, because you thrown into the lion's den and figuring it out. And yeah, nowadays I live in New York. I'm doing theoretically both, but there's like this tiny weird little thing, you might have heard of it, the pandemic over the past 2 years, and it made acting a little harder.
What's that? The pandemic?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
No, don't worry about it. Just never leave your house, but other than that, you're fine.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's about it. That's me.
Awesome.
Oh, awesome. Thank you
I
for
feel like-
sharing. Oh, go ahead, Liz.
No, I just was going to say that I feel like you've done so much already, and it sounds so cool. Like acting and stuff. That's
Aw.
also something that I find really interesting. So
Oh really? That's awesome.
I haven't done
Yeah.
anything with it though. But like always when I watch movies and stuff, I'm like, I wonder how cool it would be to like be on the set of that, and to be a character and just to act someone who you are not.
Right.
Oh, I love it. I mean, like nowadays with TikTok and stuff, there's good ways to try that out a little bit at home as well, and I'm sure you'd be great at it. It's very fun.
Yeah, Liz would be super good at it. I used to try acting, I used to be more of an actor when I was younger. I would do like monologues, and I really wanted to get into theater,
Awesome.
but yeah, like school was always just like too demanding and stuff. So it's like really cool to like hear like your experience with it. Like I love that. And I think as
Thanks.
a storyteller, it kind of makes sense too, because you get into these characters, and your book has so many. your book has
True.
and they're all so different.
I do love character work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like acting and writing overlap a lot. Both are kind of about listening a lot, like listening to the story, listening to the characters, and then taking action. And I definitely my screenwriter used to say that like for screenwriting you should definitely take acting classes as well. My screenwriting instructor, there we go, because it really informs each other. And so yeah, it's cool that you both like have that love for acting as well, and like interest in writing and stuff. It's all storytelling in a way.
Yeah, no, I remember being in college, and my one of my illustrating instructors said that he didn't know any animator or illustrator that didn't at some point want to be in front of a screen, and it makes sense. It makes sense to me. So yeah, on the topic of your characters and your writing, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So it's got pages. They're printed from trees. No, okay. let me try this. I can do this. Yeah. So it's a dark epic fantasy adult. It's strong on the epic, like it's high fantasy, it's in its own world. It starts out with two Reaper gods, Alamus and Balthus, who are in charge of carrying souls from the mortal realm into the ethereal realm. And they were created by the creators of everything, the poet and the smith. But the thing is, Alamus, she's really enamored with the world and the mortals, and she would love to be among them, and kind of hates her job and hates her life a little bit. And Balthus also hates his job and life, but for different reasons, and kind of misunderstands her a lot. They're theoretically lovers. They were designed to be lovers together, but they're not really a match. And he kills their creators to form a new pantheon and to make Alamus and him actually gods, and makes the world more spicy, more interesting, with borders and wars and catastrophes, all that stuff that's so enjoyable. And Alamus hates that, and she splinters, her soul splinters. So one of the big magic system parts in the book is that souls are inherently magic, and when they rip apart, that leaves magic in the air. I can't say too much more because that's spoilery. Anyway, so a celestial war happens. Things are pretty bad, and in the end, there's sort of a bit of a truce. The treaty is signed, and Alamus becomes the traitor god, and she's bound to Limbo, to the lost realm of Limbo, where demons live and splintered souls, and it's just a very nasty area. And the gods, the new pantheon, has to stay in their celestial realm and not engage with the world too much. So 1,000 years later, we have this whole group of misfits that don't know each other in the start, but their stories start interweaving, and they're waking up to these false religions, these false beliefs that were carried through from Balthus, and that's corrupted them, and they're reclaiming their own agency, rewriting the stories around them and like what they've been taught. And Alamus is among them. We don't know until the end how. And we follow them through wars, through court intrigues, through revolutions, and all of them are trying to change the world and make it a better place, because they're all feeling like that the world, how it currently is, isn't fair. And they slowly interweave to a major event at the end, which brings us a little closer to to the world before, how it used to be. Yeah, and that's the first book. I think that's a vague description.
Yeah, no, I think you did pretty good. Like after reading it and us discussing it yesterday, like it is kind of a very complex story, so it's very difficult to lump it up into 5 minutes. Like that's
it truly is.
No, the magic systems are insane in your books. Like there's multiple, right, magic systems.
Thank you. Yeah. I think insane is good.
Yeah. No, but you did great. That was awesome. So, Liz, do you want to ask the next question?
Sure. Sorry, my mind was
No worries.
It's okay.
I can talk about the magic systems a little bit. So, every time you eat a burger, you turn into a butterfly, and
what?
Stuff like that. Okay, that's not true. No.
I was like,
Liz is like, that's crazy.
Yeah, holy shit. Well, your book...
You did say insane, so I'm just trying to play along
It
here.
already sounds like crazy, and from what I've heard from Melanie too, it's like so many things happen, and there are so many diverse people too. How is it writing people with so many different diversities and stuff, and sexualities?
Both awesome and scary. So over the course of the writing, I started diversifying it more. Like, it originally started out as, we'll go into that later, but the very first chapters, when I first started thinking of the world, I was like, wait a second, everyone is white and this is all European centric, and that sucks. So I took a step back and really created a world. And yeah, it's super super important to me because we really learn about other people's perspectives and lives and stuff by reading and by consuming stories, right? So and so many of our prejudices are because they're sort of seen as others and because we haven't lived in their shoes. And because of that, I wanted to first of all make a world that reflects our real world, and also offer a lot of different perspectives of people that are normally easily dismissed.
Yeah.
One of that is Allie. She's one of the main characters, and she's a princess and a physicist, and she has a schizoaffective disorder. And this is one of the things that, like, I wanted to display different mental illnesses and mental health conditions, but this one was so important to me because well, the whole Game of Thrones thing just happened, and I've been so sick of the crazy queen, the crazy evil mad princess, and that whole stuff. And I wanted to actually humanize his perspective and show a character that's like, okay, you can, you know, have that, but that affects you, and that doesn't change your personality or turns you into a villain in any way. So I really wanted to do that. And there's a lot of research that comes into it, and it's scary because you always think you could make a mistake, and there are so many important nuances. But at the same time, I really, really want to keep writing like that because I feel like it enriches our stories, and it's sort of a like, well, this is scary, I don't want to do it. It's not a good reason not to do it.
Yeah, no,
So,
I agree. Like, that's so awesome. You know, reading your books, like, and not just Allie, not just because I didn't know she had schizophrenia until we discussed it, because of the way that it's ingrained in like who she is, you know. But after you mentioned it, it's very clear to see. I noticed that you did a lot of little tiny things to really help tell that story for her, and not just with her, but with other characters as well. Like, you have different races, and in my opinion, those races are parallel to like the races in our own world and like how people perceive them. For example, Richard, he isn't okay with these orcs, right? He's not good with them,
right? And
like that just spoke volumes. I think it's really interesting, like how you did that. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Richard's kind of an interesting case in general because his whole story is so tainted by
religion,
the small town community he grew up, and the religion of that small town community, which is, you know, Balthasar's religion's corrupted, and he's very strongly influenced by the local priest through some traumatic events. I don't want to go too far into it, but because of that, he's very much embraced that, okay, what our collective in the small town thinks and what the priest says has to be the truth. I cannot accept anything else. So he theoretically, when we see like little bits of him when he was younger, had all this curiosity for the world and didn't start with these beliefs, but those were beaten into him, and now he has this view of like, well, every foreigner is kind of scary. The orcs specific, because the orcs come from Tribu La'am, which is the only like country in this world that doesn't believe in the pantheon, so they must be evil because I have to believe in the pantheon, because if I don't, I have to, you know, everything that I was taught was wrong. So that's one of the major things I really want to explore in the book, is how we cling on to our beliefs, even the toxic ones, because questioning them is so much more painful and alienating from everyone around us, especially if we're taught that that's the right one. And one of his big words is decent. He's been taught that he was made decent and he needs to cling on to this decency. So he's very attached to like what it means to be a good, decent man and what that entails and all of that. And that's why I like his story particularly, but everyone is kind of dealing with it a little bit of these ideas that Baltos, just because he was bored, implanted and it got corrupted over the millennia, and now reflect some of our own like world's beliefs that are very toxic for us and are actually harming us. And yeah, stuff like bigotry and racism comes from that, from those, you know, fears of questioning your own beliefs that you were taught.
Yeah, I think in particular, I really enjoyed reading like his perspective, and also just like the things that he has to go through, or that he's done in order to survive, and also for his son. Like, he thinks he's this decent guy, but then he does some things that are questionable.
Yeah, because he's not, like, in our eyes, he's not acting decent at all, but, you know, in the priest's eyes, he is.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, there's so many characters in your book, which is amazing. Like, what is your demographic? Like, who will enjoy this series?
So I like to say that it's kind of a queer feminist take on Game of Thrones. I had a couple of people who said they didn't like Game of Thrones, but like this book, and that's cool. But in general, I think you need to like this style of book. Like, you definitely need to like multiple perspectives. You need to like interweaving storylines. And I think this is great for people that love epic fantasy, that love emerging in worlds and characters, and aren't looking for like a specific quest or like the one thing, but instead love how the world unfolds and how each of the stories merge into a greater story. And I think fantasy is really great for that. So it's definitely for people that love kind of getting lost in books, and also have the patience for that. So like, yeah, I personally love emerging in books where it's like, this is all so fascinating and I love the characters and I don't know where it's going, but that's fine. So like, the unpredictability in books is something that readers would definitely need to like. Because I know there's like two trains of thoughts. I personally, you know, like, I like to vary a little bit, but I prefer unpredictable books. But I know that there's a lot of people that prefer to have a very clear direction they're going to, and I think that's not really who it's for. Sorry.
No, I totally agree. For me, when I'm reading a book, I like to be surprised. I like to like not know exactly where it's going. I know that people cling on to tropes like hardcore. People are like, oh, this trope and it has to be this way. And, you know, as a writer and a reader, I don't understand that. Like, tropes are fine, but how cool is it to read a book where you just have no clue where it's going to go? And, you know, it's just the journey of that. You know, the other thing is I definitely, you know, reading this book and then us discussing some of the reviews that you got, I think that this book is very much so like a book that people that enjoy series like novels, they would enjoy that. It's not a short book, you know, it's I think it's almost like 600 pages.
It's 670.
Yeah, 670 pages.
It's a chunker.
But I love that. I'm about that. And the other thing is I don't read super like fast, and I also get like very attached to characters. So for me, it was good.
Oh, me too.
Because I got a break in between certain characters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was just really nice. I really enjoyed the way that it was written. But yeah, so if you're looking for like a short book,
applaud you for the dedication to write such a big book.
Yeah, it takes a certain level of obsession, which I gladly supply. But yeah, exactly, with the whole getting really attached to characters and kind of dropping and picking back up. Several people have told me it's got a little bit of a TV show vibe, which I can see, and coming from screenwriting, that makes sense for me too, because it is of this, you know, big cast and that kind of development.
I mean, I think it prescribes like different perspectives for people too. It's like there's all kinds of different characters that you can really get in touch with. Like, I really personally like love Allie's perspective and like her journey, and Vanna. Yes. I love her perspective as well. And Richard's son. Oh God, is it? I'm sorry.
Pia?
Yeah.
It's okay, don't worry. It's a lot of names.
Yeah, and it's been a little bit since I've put the book down, so.
I'll just hand it to you. You can. No.
Thank you.
I love it when you have different POVs, because then you can really get more into the characters and feel more like why they do things and stuff. So that's really cool that you did that too.
Thanks. What I love about multiple characters, both for writing and reading, is when you see a character whose perspective you've read through the eyes of someone else. I love that, because then it's like, wait a second, that's not how they see themselves.
That's another thing that's really interesting.
Also, how do you keep motivated writing such a big book? Or just a book in general?
Obsession. No, well, kinda. Okay, so this book started out while I was working social media customer care, really long shifts. I was so creatively depleted, and it became my my like recharge, and I was motivated because I felt like that was keeping me alive. Like I really, really needed it, and kind of the whole world became my safe haven, and that's how it built and whatnot. And then when I moved and finally had the chance to actually dedicate time to it, I was definitely motivated, because then I was like, this is what I've been hoping for and wanting for so long. And nowadays, honestly, that kind of promise that I made for myself when I was working full time and was like, I really want to do this full time and, you know, be creative full time. I'm upholding that promise to myself, and yeah, it gets difficult sometimes, and motivation, you know, ebbs and flows, but I still approach it with a lot of gratitude of being able to have the space to do that. And with this story, the transition from first draft to second draft was very hard, because the first draft is a complete utter chaos, and I had to rewrite 70% of the book. Like, I rewrote 70% of the book, which is really hard to do when you just finished a first draft this big. But I was in a writer's workshop during that time, and I had to hand in my finished manuscript. So I had like, oh, okay, so you're mostly done with the first draft? Well, now you have 4 weeks to finish it, and that helped. And then in the workshop, I briefly had an agent interested in it. It didn't work out because he doesn't represent epic fantasy, but he was interested, and he was like, okay, can you get it to me in like the next 2 months? And I'm like, sure. And then I really sat down and rewrote it in, I don't know, in like 2.5 months, the whole book, which was so much. But that helped the motivation too. So I had
a beast.
Several lucky instances.
Let's just be real. Like, I could not. Like, 600 pages rewrite. I can't even wrap my mind around that. That's insane.
It was. Yeah, it was quite a lot.
So, when it comes to writing, like, what is your process?
I'm still working on really refining my process. For Goddess of Limbo, I was kind of a mixture between discovery writer and like a planter. I was mostly for the first draft, I was mostly going down the storylines of certain characters that I knew, and I was writing very non-chronologically. So I had a couple of characters where I knew where they were going, and then I like Pia actually is one of those where I knew he was going, and he has a big part in the second book, which
I'm so excited
because, like, that part. So I had his story, and then I started weaving, you know, his dad's story and whatnot through them. In the second draft, I made sort of a loose outline plan to rewrite it, and then each time something was changed in a chapter, each time like the characters were like, no, that's not the story, and something big happened, I sat down and re-outlined. So for the revision, every 3 weeks I would have oh god, everything is different now, sit down and like work through a headache for 2 hours, and then by the third hour it was starting to all work out again. So that was the process for that book. I have since wrote another first draft for a novel and shelved like a half-finished horror book.
Ooh. Liz just got so excited. Did you see them bounce?
I love reading horror. I've written a little bit of short horror,
Nice.
and this one had some good things, but I was too much trying to pants it. It kind of didn't go where I thought it was going, and I also had this weird thing of like, is it a comedy or is it a horror? It's a horror comedy, but it also had 2 point of views.
Yeah.
and like one of them was horror and the other was comedy, and I'm like, that doesn't, maybe I'll pick it up someday again, but right now it doesn't really mash. But right now I'm trying to get a little bit more structure beforehand so that I don't have to go through this is my first draft, it is a complete mess, now let's suffer. So
You're trying to get it right the first time.
It would be ideal not to have that.
I understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
With Goddess of Limbo, can you tell us like who you love writing the most?
several people have asked me that now, and I'm like, my babies, I shall not choose. But I have a vague, I have a vague answer. So I have one character that I love writing for and hate editing, and that's Martine.
Oh, Martine is my favorite.
He's great. He's our snarky crime family heir, orc, gay, trans man. I love writing for him because he's so snarky, and his like internal monologue is just 90% snark, and it's very fun. It's a lot of jokes. But then I edit him and I'm like, how many profanities did he use? Oh my gosh. And I had it with my beta readers where they were like, can you please stop swearing, please? So
I love it.
One of them counted the amount of like times I said the word ass, and I'm like, that's too many. I'll try to cut it down.
It's hard when you're in that mode, right? Of their perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was because the way he was interacting with Richard, and him and Richard are kind of adversaries.
They don't go well.
And yes. For good reasons that like it's neither's fault really, but like they don't go well. I mean, it's more Richard's fault.
Yeah,
still.
Let's be real.
But Martine, yes, for Martine, thinks of him of like, oh, that ass, like that asshole, and then can I swear?
Yeah, you can
yes,
swear.
I mean, it's too late now. It's too late now.
That is.
But then he was referring to him every time he spoke that way, and I'm like, okay, that works. And then my beta readers were like, it does not work. And one of them was like, do you really hate Richard? I'm like, I don't hate Richard, Martine hates Richard. Okay, this is not coming across well. So yeah, he's a favorite to first draft.
Yeah.
Who is your least favorite contrast?
Yeah, that is a really hard question. So can I answer as like most difficult to write, because I really love writing them all. Like they all mean a lot to me. But most difficult to write would probably be Subira, who is awesome. I love her so much, but she's a military she's a military genius. She's a captain. She's like really strategic and stuff. And one of those things that entails for military apparently is that, you know, you have to have some good of spatial awareness of like where things go and whatnot, and good bloody thinking, and I don't have that as much, so it sometimes takes me a bit to be like, okay, what is the actual smart move? And the same with Pia, because he is, we don't see that as much yet, but in the second book it's going to get much more. He's a politician, and he studied politics, and like, he's really good at persuasion and stuff. And I'm not.
That must be so difficult then.
Yeah, and I was also going to mention, like, we talked about your process with writing Allie as well, because Allie is a physicist. Yes. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. And how much research goes into that.
In my last proofread, I caught another like chemistry thing I did wrong. You still read it, Mel, so you know.
I didn't catch it because I'm not smart.
Yes. Yeah, right. I read so many children's chemistry, like my first chem class. It was hard. Like, it was a little easier sometimes because I just needed to understand the physical theories just enough to be able to turn them into like metaphors, and to turn them into like, okay, this is how she understands and processes the world. And like the metaphorical part I'm great at, so it was just the like, do I really know what this means now? Do I know what this means now? Yeah, that's a little hard too.
I love that. want to know like your favorite moments, but I want to tell you a favorite moment of mine that I actually told.
Ooh, yes.
I actually told Liz about this. I don't think that this is giving away too much about the because we already talked about Richard and how he's very religious. But one of my favorite moments is when he is at his booth and he's selling some of his like woodworks in the beginning. And a soldier comes up to him and he's like, hey, you know, you either have to pay or you have to leave. And then their interaction, because this soldier was like hitting on him, like, you want to, you know, and Richard is so like, oh, like, how do I deal with this? And I don't know why, but it just made my little heart like just squeal, because one of my favorite things in life is like seeing older religious, very like judgmental people like interact with younger, more open-minded, diverse people. And like just that. So it was just like the best. It was the best.
Yeah. Oh, that's such it's like, I both love this moment, but it's also a little heartbreaking in the context of the whole story. But yes, thank you for sharing that.
What is your favorite? Well, and without giving too much away, but you know, tell us your favorite moment that you got to write.
Well, my favorite moment is the ending. You see, this is what happened. No, okay. Oh my goodness.
No.
Okay, so one of my favorites, and it's kind of how the scene came to me that has something to do with that, but it's the Hard Rhyme River chapter. So Allie, without saying why specifically, is leading kind of an expedition with like a military mission across a half-frozen river to take out the enemy side. And she's got this whole invention of how to do it, and things go poorly. One of the things I really love about it is that she's counting the seconds that she has to get through the river before hypothermia
and then
kicks
she splinters
in her head.
Yeah, so like she's like talking about like the potential of that happening. I like reading that was really intense. Sorry for interrupting, but yeah, that was an intense moment.
No, thank you. Yes. So I really loved writing that because it felt so tense. And then also afterwards, something happened that didn't happen in the first draft. Exactly. You're shaking, shimmying your shoulders. The thing is, I don't think this is too much spoiler, but in the first draft, she had this personal guard named Robert, and that was all he was, a personal guard.
But then
and
they
then
were
rewrote it. Yes, exactly. Then they became something else. And this is actually how kind of the book has kind of the whole, instead of a love triangle, we have a polycule, like a poly constellation.
Nice.
Polyamorous. Awesome. And that's where
I always miss that.
I discovered that.
Sorry.
No, that
right, yeah.
I just want to touch on that a little bit, because this is what I mean by how diverse your book is. Not only does it have, you know, mental illness, it has, you know, diverse races. It has a lot of different like sexualities, people questioning their sexualities, and then it has like different relationship styles. Like there's a couple that goes through like a younger couple. They were together and they ended up breaking up because the girl figured out that she was actually more attracted to females, and so they're still friends, which is difficult. But like, I don't know, it just brings up all these like ideas that like we don't get in a lot of books, and so that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about reading Goddess of Limbo.
Thanks.
So your book is nearly coming out, which is fucking exciting. Where can people find your book?
Well, I give out treasure maps to interested people. No, okay, so
that would be awesome.
I know.
Right? The ebook and the paperback is currently available for pre-order at most major booksellers, so like online, but I think if you go to a bookstore and ask for it, that will be possible too. So you just look up Goddess of Limbo. It's on Goodreads, it's on Amazon, and it's on bookshop.org too, because I like to, you know, direct people sort of away from Amazon, but I also need Amazon. It's confusing.
I think every author feels that.
Yeah, so like it's available anywhere. On my website, I sell signed copies with 2 bookmarks and a cover art thank you card that I'll handwrite. And also, I'm first time I'm talking about this, but I'm currently working on it. Any signed copies that I bought to my website are going to have stained edges and like a little bit of design on the side, so it's gonna look really pretty. At the moment, those are only really available for US only. Like, theoretically, the signed copies are available internationally too, but I've checked and delivery costs are like $40. So that's what the delivery costs are going to be.
Shipping
so you
is a
probably would be better just ordering it somewhere else. But for US people, you know, if you want a signed copy, you can do that on my website, which is leafalls.com. So it's LEA and FALLS.com. So
We'll also link it below.
That's I think where you can find
Yeah,
it.
we will make sure
Awesome.
that it's in the show notes as
perfect.
well, so that
Yeah.
way it's easy for people to access.
Thank you.
No, of course. Thank you so much for doing this with us and talking about your book with us. And so the last question I was kind of hoping to discuss is how the next book is going for you right now.
It's a bit of a complicated story because when I was writing the first book, in the revision, I realized that it was way too long, which is hard to believe because it's still... Oh God, I just threw it down.
You threw it on the ground.
It's still very long. But I wrote the first draft of the first book, and in Goddess of Limbo, there's a war that starts, and it's a big war. It's stalled for a while. It's like goes over a whole decade. And in the first draft, I wrote the conclusion of the war. But then in revision, I was like, having a whole war is a little much for one book. So I ended up splitting the first draft into half, which is also why I had to rewrite so much. I have the ending of the second book fully. And it's very sad. It's very tragic. But I have that part, and I have a couple of scenes already vaguely sketched, but I haven't started working on it yet. Partially because I was very sick over this last year, so I wasn't really able to work on writing as much as I wanted to. But also partially because I decided the next book, seeing as this is such a big, intimidating, like, tomb of a book, tome? Not tomb.
Yeah.
I decided to write a prequel novella first,
Nice.
which can be read as a standalone, but also
I love
ties
that.
into the book really
Yeah,
well.
same.
Yeah. So after the prologue of this book, as I mentioned earlier, Alama splinters and she ends up in Limbo, and I have a short story about her first time there, of like kind of regaining a bit of her consciousness, starting the war, starting her army, trying to like understand what happened to her world. And that's mostly outlined already. I was gonna start working on it, but I swear I'm working on the sequels. But the thing is, because this is the first time I'm publishing things, and because I'm an indie author, I have to be very close and involved in stuff like feedback and reviews and stuff. And mental health wise, I just cannot work on the next book of this while I'm going through that, just because my critic brain is so on. So, and I'm also hoping, I'm sorry, I don't want to go too long here, but I'm also hoping to be a hybrid author. I want to traditionally publish like standalones and other books as well. So I'm currently working on a project that I'm hoping will do that. So I hopefully will be querying that at the end of next year. So I'm doing that for NaNoWriMo, and it's kind of nice to do a different project while I'm processing the debut and the publishing. And then next year, like in spring, is on the docket to really focus on the prequel novella and on the second book. Maybe I'll even write them kind of at the same time, because
you seem like a spring person. You seem like that's like when you shine. Am I right?
No,
not at all. I like how you're just like, nah.
The problem with this is that this year I was horrifically sick for 4 months in spring, and the year before I had COVID for 3 months in spring, so I can't even remember the last spring where I was not in bed.
Oh my gosh. gosh, that's awful.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shock y'all, but
No.
but it's like I'm hopeful for spring. I'm hopeful for the spring, but I'm also like, I don't know if I'm a spring person because I haven't felt like a person the past springs. I'm a winter person though.
Same. I
love
am like
winter.
fall winter person. Like that's when I I feel like that's when I'm like the most energetic. I think the reason why I thought that is because you're like an angel. You're like so light and like.
Aww.
But it's funny because
I'm a snow angel.
Lea, you posted a meme not too long ago. We were talking about a meme where it was like you're either one writer or the other. It was like you're either like an angel that like writes about like demonic awful things, or you're like really scary and you write about cute things. And like I think you're the one holding the big demon.
Yeah. Yes, the outfit does not necessarily match the prose.
Like inside you're like, I'm awful, but on the outside you're like, I'm cute.
That also reminds me of the Banksy painting where the little girl is standing with the knife behind her back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's the whole cinnamon roll that can kill.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lea, for like doing this with us and talking about your book and dealing with all the technical difficulties from today.
No worries. Thank you for having me. We should cut it here before we go into spilling my dark secrets.
But that's what we really want to know.
Dang, I should have said that. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again, like just to have you on, just to talk about books and whatnot. It was really fun.
Yeah, I do read.
Thank you.
Just really quick, what's your favorite book now that we're talking about it?
Oh, since this year I'm able to mention one favorite book because it's my all-time favorite book now. If This Is How You Lose the Time War from Amar Mota and Max Gladstone. Oh my god, I love that book.
Oh, it sounds really good.
So that
I'm
one,
writing it down.
it's so good. It's so good, and it's gay, and it's epic, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. So like, it has everything.
Love gay.
I love it.
We love gay.
Yes, we're all about it.
Yes. I also want to briefly mention that in January, my short story will be featured in a sci-fi fantasy LGBTQ anthology by Hansen House Books, which is a really great publisher who only publishes queer books. And my short story, it's a sci-fi short story about a autistic lesbian teenager and her intersex best friend who break into a futuristic eugenics clinic to prevent that. And that is coming out in January as well. It's called Elixir, and you can already find it on Goodreads.
Oh, that's
as well.
amazing!
And, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're done looking into Gods of Limbo, I have that coming out too.
I want to purchase like the official book as soon as it comes out.
Right.
Just to hold it.
Do you prefer hardcover or paperback?
I am a hardcover lover, so I'll probably wait for the hardcover, but I also enjoy paperback. It just depends on what's easier.
The hardcover is going to have a bonus chapter and Artyom prequel chapter.
I want that. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's cool that you have like an extra thing for that.
I think a lot of authors usually do that with the hardcover because it's a little bit more expensive and like just a little cute thing to add to the hardcover.
Yeah.
Like,
I just wanted to make it a little more special. That's why I have the under the dust jacket, the design, or is it the dust jacket? I never quite know, but the thing printed on the book is going to be different too.
I'm so excited
because I want to make it special. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lea. It was so awesome having you on here.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, you can check her out. We will have links in the show notes if you want to purchase Goddess of Limbo. Believe me, it is a ride. And you will enjoy it. We are so thankful for having you on, and we hope to have you on again soon. Liz, do you wanna end us off with like all of our social media things?
So you can follow Lea on Instagram, which is Lea Falls Writes. I'm sorry, and then
no worries.
While you're at it, you can follow us too. which is the Book
'Cause we're
Fairy
fun.
Spot on
Yes,
Instagram.
please do.
We're sort of fun, kind of a little bit. And on Twitter
No!
you can...
Absolutely.
Don't be modest. We're amazing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they're amazing.
Melanie is
Go
amazing.
follow them. You have to.
And
Shh. Liz
Okay,
is the one
and-
that does all of the beautiful photography. Come on. Like,
shush.
True.
our shush.
And, Twitter is Book Fairy Spot, and you have an email to email us on, which is in a sentence.
If you would like us to review your book, or if you have a story that you'd like us to check out, or if you'd like to be interviewed by us, please email us at thebookfairies@gmail.com. We will get back to you as soon as we can. Oh, go ahead,
It's
Liz.
thebookfairyspot@gmail.com.
Right. Okay. So the Book Fairies
But
pod.
we have it linked in below.
Yeah, because we are awful at remembering.
Yeah, we are Dory from
Dory.
Finding Nemo.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep swimming, swimming,
Yeah.
swimming.
And you're just
keep
like
swimming, just
10
keep swimming.
seconds later, you're like, wait a minute.
That is me for sure. Okay, thank you guys all for listening in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Doo-doo.
Thank you again. Bye.